Good to go. Good morning. Welcome to Let's Get Growing. We are finally out in the garden. It's a little cold this morning, but we'll get to that. As you can see, I don't know if you can see a little bit, we do still have some snow on the ground in a few spots. Shady areas, there's definitely more. Um, the ground is still frozen. It was below freezing last night, so the ground is good and hard right now. And this is actually the time I like to get in the garden if I can and start to get some of my spring cleanup stuff done. Why do I do it at this time? As you can see, there's not a lot going on. Snowdrops are blooming. If we look closely, hellebore flowers will start to be pushing up, but nothing else much is happening. As I said, the ground is still frozen, so I can easily get out on the garden, walk around, and I don't have to worry about crushing things because they're all still asleep and I'm not sinking through. So this is the time we like to get out there and start to get spring cleanup done. We're not going to do everything. We won't get to everything at this time, but there are some things we can certainly do right now and things that we should do right now so our spring display as it happens is in good shape. Laura, I'm just going to turn over the camera here just this way a little bit. So we're into this part of the garden here. This is a great place to give a few examples. Lots of snowdrops in bloom. There's a couple of good clumps of hellebores here that are going to come into bloom in the next week or two. We've got some epimediums that, again, are going to bloom early. There's lots of bulbs under here, and there are masses of perennials under here. When the perennials are out, you don't see any ground. And we'll talk about that at a later date. But you will not see any of this ground when the perennials come out. What's on the ground right now? All the leaves that fell off the trees last year, leaves that fell off the perennials, and all that sort of debris stays on the garden. We never take that off. That is really our mulch layer. In that mulch layer, I'm just going to grab these. In that mulch layer, there's lots of insects and things like that, which is great. But also what this mulch layer does is it decomposes underneath the perennials and feeds the soil. Very, very important. Also, as what mulch does, buying mulch, and we used to when the garden was young, we don't have to mulch these areas with anything. The plant material does the job, but also this mulch layer that we don't disturb, we do not cultivate up this mulch layer, keeps some weeds and things suppressed as well. So it does a big job for us. But there is, of course, a few things we need to do and look at. So we're going to do some cutting back of a few things. And I know there's always lots of, memes and things around right now about, not cleaning up the garden until it's 10 degrees and that sort of thing. Not very practical. Well-meaning, but not ideal. What we do in the garden is we basically follow chop and drop methods. You hear about this all the time now. We've been doing it for 30 years here. We had no soil in these gardens. When we started, we had pure sand. Now, if I were to dig a hole, I got 12 inches of a nice, loose soil humus mix in there. It's all been built up just by letting this stuff sit on the garden. So with our bigger things, bigger perennials, we do a chop and drop. I'll show you on this. I think that's a lily it's here. And for chop and drop, all we do is we get in there. Can you see it, Laura, through the debris there? And we got our stem, and we just chop it up into smaller pieces, and just like that, we leave it in there. If there's some overwintering insects, well, lupin's going to steal a piece, but if there's some overwintering insects in there, they're going to find their way out of those cut pieces. Now, what we would also do, if you want to leave a lot of stem bases and things for insects and that are overwintering, I'll show you back here a little bit on our phlox. So, to make the garden tidy, look at the front 4 to 6 feet maybe, cut it right back, then it's all tidy. Your further stuff deep in the beds, you can leave it a bit taller. Like if I feel that these phlox here might have a lot of insects and stuff living in the bases and around the trunks there and overwintering here, what we'll do with these, we'll just cut them back to about a foot or so. Tidies them up, allows the leaf bases to stay intact, and then once the phlox start growing within a couple of weeks, you won't see those stem pieces. But at least from your front bits will be nice and tidy, and then your taller stuff at the back of your borders can be left a bit tall. It's a great compromise. But what we're going to look at right now is what to do with those early blooming perennials that you want to enjoy the flowers. And that, our 2 big ones, are hellebores and epimediums. So both are basically evergreen, meaning that they do keep their foliage, all year round. It doesn't mean that this old foliage that's here is going to do you much good. It can be removed. So with an epimedium, we do have some leftover foliage here. Because it was well covered by snow, and there was easily 4 feet of snow here, it's still nice and green. But this is going to deteriorate now as new foliage pushes up. So you want to get a good display, and epimediums are gorgeous when they bloom and have their new foliage pushing up. So we just simply will go in. You can chop it in 2 or 3 waves through, but essentially, hi Lupin, we're going to chop that epimedium back basically right to ground level. The little snowdrop in there we want to preserve. Right back to ground level. Get your nose out of there, you get snipped. Chop up that foliage, and then we'll just leave it as the mulch layer. That is going to allow the epimediums to come up fresh. They're going to look beautiful. They're going to put on a beautiful display. Hellebores, same thing. Hellebore foliage does hang around on most varieties and species, but you can see it here. Yes, it's evergreen, but look at it at this time of the year. Really ratty. It needs to go. So, with the hellebores, we do it a little differently. If I move back this little bit of leaf debris here, just pull that back a little bit. We've got snowdrops blooming up to the crown, and we've got about 10 flower stalks right there to come into bloom very soon. And they're already up and out of the ground, but they're going to emerge and be about this tall. Make them look good. You want to see them. Just go in and take the old foliage stems right back basically to ground level. They don't need this foliage anymore. It's done its job. They are going to push up all kinds of new foliage. A little bit more epimedium here. We're going to cut back in a second. But these hellebores are going to do a great job giving us lots of spring interest. Oh, a little periwinkle stem there. We'll get that out of the way. Now, the thing with the hellebore foliage is that it's quite leathery and doesn't like to decompose real quick. So from an aesthetic standpoint, we'll take that hellebore foliage. It'll go into the compost pile and disappear from there. But now that's going to give us a beautiful display here. Going to get rid of this bit of epimedium foliage that popped up. That's going to give us a beautiful area of spring display. There's primulas hiding in here. There's other bulbs hiding in here. And it's going to be great. So we'll do this. We'll continue through the garden. We'll find things like the hellebores and the epimediums that want to give us good spring display. And that's what we'll tackle first. This is what I like about this kind of weather. Look at that. Leaning in the garden. The knees are almost completely clean still. Not bad at all. So that's how we deal with that early spring stuff. And this, what you see here, this is as clean as the garden ever gets. And we'll come back and look at this again in a couple of weeks, and we'll see just what's happening in this particular area, because it's a really good, easy location to show you layering of perennials, layering of bulbs, and the progression from very early spring right on through the season. And it displays a lot of principles that we use in the garden. Now I'm going to just switch over one little bit over here. We'll talk about one more plant and then let Laura get in from the cold. Going to swing right here. This is a Clematis recta. Clematis recta is one of the herbaceous clematis, which basically does die to the ground every year. If you have clematis and you have group 3 varieties, that would be Viticella cultivars, rectas, a lot of the other herbaceous species. Now is the time to cut them back as well. And to cut them back, they're really easy. If you have the Viticellas and cultivars like Jackmanii, which is a group 3, you just come into the plant, look at a good strong stem here that's got buds about 12 to 18 inches off the soil, and then you prune them above that, and then you get rid of all of this. Okay? Now, again, you could start from the top if you wanted to, and just chop this stuff up. Chop it up into smaller bits. Let it stay on the ground. And then it becomes part of your mulch layer as it decomposes. Now, because this is a Clematis recta, it is herbaceous. Just like, whoa, hey, no barking. Who are you barking at? Oh, thought maybe you saw a squirrel or something. So, Clematis recta is a herbaceous perennial. Herbaceous means it dies down to the ground, and then everything comes up again from the root, like a peony or a hosta. So with those ones, you don't even need to leave that long stalk. You can actually take them right down clear off the whole trellis. And again, this, if you get too much of this, don't feel you need to leave it all in the garden, because you can put it into the compost and it will decompose and do its thing there in making fresh soil. But there's what we do with the herbaceous varieties. And as you saw how tall that was, this plant by midsummer will completely cover this obelisk and be up onto the pergola as well. So there's your first start at what you can be doing, even with a bit of snow on the ground still and frozen ground in the garden. We certainly can't get every plant, but we can get a good start at it and get the garden looking good and ready for the spring display. We got any questions today, Laura?
Yes. Michelle would like to know, can you cut the lilac bush?
Cutting back a lilac bush. Well, sort of. You need to be careful. Generally, the general rule of shrub pruning is if it blooms in the spring, you prune it right after it blooms. If it blooms in the summer or fall, you prune it in the spring. Okay? Now, if you have a big branch to remove, if you have to fix its shape, and you can see the structure of the plant right now, and it's a spring bloomer, who cares? You're not going to hurt the plant. You just might cut off a few of your flowers. I see Lupin's going to help us take that to the compost, or just chew it up in the garden. That's okay. So don't be worried if you have to do some pruning, because at this time of the year, for most plants, you can see the structure, you can see what branches might need to be removed. So if it's for that reason you're pruning, then go ahead and do it. If it's just trimming to sort of tidy it up a little bit, now wait till after it blooms to do that. Otherwise, go ahead. The only things you want to avoid at this time of the year are sort of your bleeding trees, your maples, your birch, for examples. If you do much pruning on a maple or a beech or a birch right now, they will drip sap all over the place and gets really messy and gross. So try to avoid that. But if you need to take a branch or two off a lilac because you can see them now, go ahead, no problem.
Another question is a follow-up. We wondered how your willow tunnel is coming.
The willow tunnel is doing great. Late last summer, I connected all of the side hoops. So it is a tunnel now. We'll have a look at that again in maybe next week or the week after. We'll have a look at how our willow tunnel's coming along. But yeah, it's working out well. I have to fix a little bit of the distance between the top hoops, but that's okay. I just do that as we prune and shape it. So it's doing well. We'll get it into a show this spring. All right. It's gardening season. It's supposed to be 9 degrees for us today. It's supposed to be 13 or 14 or 15 by Monday and Tuesday. So get out in the garden and have some fun. We'll see you next time on Let's Get Growing.